Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Marty Paginen, and I do want to welcome you all here to this memorial service this morning. Thank you so much for being here. Obviously, a number of you have traveled quite a distance, and we really appreciate that, and so does everyone else that's here. As you know, we've come together to pay tribute to Nancy Winder, to celebrate her life together, but also certainly to acknowledge her passing. When someone who is so special to us and so full of life passes away, it shakes us, doesn't it, to our very foundation. We informally, I guess, make agreements to each other to walk together through the time of grief. We laugh as we remember wonderful and happy times. We cry, of course, as we feel the pain of loss. We experience emotions maybe we haven't felt for some time, or maybe even ever. And we honor and celebrate a life in so many different ways. We share memories that are close to our hearts that remind us of how special our loved one is. We talk about all the wonderful character qualities that made them who they were. And we also gather together. And I know that during the pandemic, it's obviously difficult to do that. And I know that we're being recorded and live streamed here as well. And with the use of technology, we have people that are able to honor and participate in the celebration of a life, even though they're not here in person. And that's wonderful. But we gather together to do all those things as well. And so that's the purpose of us being here, to celebrate Nancy's attributes and share memories and to honor her life in all of its aspects. So again, thank you for being here. I'm convinced of this, that everyone's life is a gift. Would you agree? Everyone's life, right? Everyone's life is special. And I think everyone's life tells a story. And it may not be a story for everyone in the world to listen in on and lend their ear to, but those who are connected by friendship, those who are connected by love and family, the story of someone's life is worth retelling and appreciating. Nancy's story began a long time ago. December 30th, 1931, she was born Nancy Joan Broke to her parents, Ursel and Ivedel. Did I get it? I had a 50-50 chance on that, so for me. Born in Toronto and one of 4 children. Grew up in Weston, lived around that area. As a younger woman, she met a man named Cliff Winder, and their friendship blossomed into love. And eventually they were married May 17th, 1952. She was trained in education and taught for 1 year at the Maple Leaf Public School before becoming a mother, although she did help Cliff out with the taxi business throughout her life as well. In time, the family moved to Scarlet Road. They built a pool. Nancy loved to swim and even learned life saving through that time. After that, it was to Pine Street, and then in 1970, they bought a farm here near Fergus. They planted trees, and she just loved and enjoyed nature at that time. After Cliff's death, Nancy lived here full time and was obviously very, very happy here. There is a parable that originated in the country of India many, many years ago. The parable, the story, was recrafted into a poem by John Godfrey Saxe in the mid-1800s. And the story is told of 6 blind men who were brought for the first time to discover what an elephant was like. And so each of the blind men came and they touched the elephant in a different spot, and then they made some odd observations. And so the one who touched the side of the elephant said, "Oh, an elephant is like a wall, strong and sturdy." There was one who touched the tusk, and his comment was, "No, an elephant is more like a spear, it's sharp." And the one who touched the trunk said, "It's more like a snake." The one who touched the knee of the elephant said, "No, an elephant is more like a tree trunk." One who touched the ear said, "No, an elephant is more like a large fan that waves in the wind." And finally, the one who touched the tail said, "No, an elephant is just like a rope. That's what an elephant is." And the parable, the story, ends with a bit of a moral, and the moral was that each man was partly right in their observation, but each held different opinions because they were only exposed to one part of the elephant. And I've heard that story many times. I don't know if you've heard that before, but I liken that unto how we remember so many different people have different perspectives, right? And they're not wrong, they're just different, right? And sometimes when we put many of those perspectives together, we get a bigger picture, right? An elephant-sized picture, if you will, of who the person was. And I found this true in my life when I try to describe someone. And so, as we remember Nancy, we have the privilege of hearing different voices from different people and their different perspectives. These have been provided to me. It's my honor to read them. First of all, from Christine, Connie, and Becky. They remember her love of sports, especially cross-country skiing and swimming, as a young person at the pool at our home on Scarlet Road, doing jackknife dives and rescuing struggling swimmers. Her being an enthusiastic spectator at her children and grandchildren's hockey games. As a kid, walking with her dad down along the Black Creek and through the fields in Downsview, especially in the spring. Making little houses with the sheaves of grass cut in the field behind their house on Falstaff Avenue. Mom remembers doing this with Sandra, George, and Virginia. The Deemers Club, building forts with Donald and Sandra, her cousin, using tar paper and discarded lumber ends from her dad's lumber mill. As kids, going north to Camp Logakello? Oh, I wasn't even close on that. I'm sorry. Logakello in Haliburton, where she started as a camper at about age 10, and then became a junior and then senior camp counselor. One of the highlights of those camp experiences was the overnight canoe trips. Spending time at the beach house owned by Grandpa Donald and located in Burlington Beach, Grandpa Donald taught Mom how to row. Spending time at Bella Lake in a cabin. Staying at Sandra's house on Belmore Avenue and having Sandra stay with her at the house on Falstaff Avenue on weekends. Christmas at Granny and Grandpa Donald's house in Burlington. They went up Christmas Eve and stayed overnight. Going to the Colonial with Dad and having Duke Ellington tell her he madly loved her on the stairs. Boy, can you imagine that? How cool would that be? Having to make sandwiches in the wee hours of the morning for Count Basie, members of the orchestra, and some of the Toronto Argonauts football team who Dad brought home unexpectedly. Being forever youthful in appearance, constantly being mistaken for a teenager when she was a young mom. Helping Dad with the cat business, and the stresses and crazy stories associated with that. Spending time at Sandy Cove, playing croquet, card games, swimming, and watching Bonanza. Sewing fancy dresses and Halloween costumes for her children. Her many delicious kinds of pie. Inviting our teachers for lunch. Making beautiful boxes of shortbread cookies for our teachers at Christmas. Renovating, rejuvenating, and transforming her beloved Hilltop Farm. Teaching us about birds, plants, and trees, and photography, and researching the metamorphosis of the monarch butterflies, and changing her garden practices to support them. Her many well-loved cats, especially Nipper, Millie, and of course Henry. Appreciating every sunny day. Boy, she would appreciate today, wouldn't she? Just a beautiful day. Her beautiful handwriting, her meticulous record of keeping, including the log she kept for grass cutting, which included date, time, fuel consumption, and the direction she mowed in. Her talent with watercolors and showing her grandchildren how to paint with them, eagerly playing word games on her phone and adapting to new technology, example Facebook and texting. Her knitting friends who supported and surprised her with picnic lunches and beautiful flowers. And we give a shout out to her knitting friends that will be watching this later. And thank you for the wonderful connection you had in Nancy's life and how meaningful that was to her. Being excellent at balderdash, the dictionary game, and having an excellent sense of humor, and being sharp as a tack every day of her life. Being an excellent sleeper who loved her cozy bed. Her love of fine dining, cold, dry white wine, strong coffee with lots of cream, fine bed linens, cashmere sweaters, sterling silver cutlery, thin-lipped glasses and mugs, and shopping on Bloor Street with Dad. Her love for Dwight Drummond and various CBC weather announcers, and always waving goodbye. And Becky continues, my memories are coming back all the time. Yes, when you're looking back through pictures, I have many of these colorful caterpillars from Mom's milkweed plants. And yes, I didn't think of it at the time, but milkweed doesn't belong on any home and gardens grounds, but Mom's love of monarchs had her plant them in her front garden. Yes, she was a strong swimmer. I remember we had a 738 Scarlet pool party for, I believe, one of your classes from Humber Heights Public School. I remember Mom diving in the pool, fully clothed, to help a student who was having difficulty. Yes, luncheons with our teachers and taking a gift wrap box of perfect shortbread cookies to school for a teacher's Christmas gift. And some memories from Charles. The stories and points are a colorful way to illustrate that Mom was always sharing. Her activities, in which she dedicated so much time and effort, produced wonderful, wonderful results, which she freely shared. Knitting, gardening, cooking, and baking were all done in amounts well beyond her personal needs. Her objective was to share generously with family and friends. The farm was neat, clean, and well appointed. We all remember it did not start out that way. Mom turned it into a 5-star bed and breakfast through hard work and careful planning. All her bedrooms had the best linen, always washed and ready for us. She appreciated the finest silverware and acquired a set for each of our families. She anticipated, planned, and made sure everyone was taken care of. Her giving was done without conditions, except the reasonable request that she be permitted to get back to all those productive activities. In a world of processed food, motorized recreation, and mass media, Mom and Dad kept all of that to a minimum. The nature walks, cross-country skiing, swimming, and stories of Count Basie and Duke Ellington are from an era where people lived actively and interacted with their community. Mom retained that throughout her life. She gladly attended her children and grandchildren's activities, including piano recitals. She celebrated the occasion by taking everyone out to a restaurant afterwards. She was very happy to praise the success of others. Having Mom visit with us at our home provided me with a feeling of contentment. The kids were always excited and happy when Granny slept over. It wasn't related to anything specific. There was just positive energy that filled the house. Having 3 generations under one roof was natural, the way life was supposed to be. Let me just pause there. I love that sentence, by the way. Perhaps it was Mom's connection to nature and her love and affection that made it complete. She always had an open invitation. Dad could easily be described as a successful businessman, but in the end, he wanted nothing to do with business except to ensure that things were in order for the family. He wanted to be at home with his family. Family was everything to him, and Mom was the same. She had her bed look out over the land to see the birds, deer, and other wildlife. She had a view of the trees and hills for 5 kilometers. Chris shared with me that Mom was proud to tell those who called her of this beautiful view. Just like Dad, family was who she wanted to share the view in her life with. In addition to being active, productive, and hardworking and a careful planner, Mom also had the determination to see all things completed. Once the goal was achieved, she graciously and generously shared the results and freely gave it away. That's my perspective. I'm sure Mom's strong character traits, her love of the natural world, and sharing with family will be part of the tribute. That will make me happy. And finally, one grandchild shared this. Granny showed me how to bake bread when I was little, and we used to knit together on the farm. I loved going to Christmas at the farm. Used to tell people that my grandma made the best cookies and bread in the world, and I really loved when she would come to my hockey games. I always played better when she was there. Again, it's interesting, different perspectives, and it gives us a bigger picture of the whole of who this wonderful woman was. The story of Nancy's life ended when she passed away peacefully at her home on Tuesday, May the 3rd of this year. She lived to be 90 years of age. It was Helen Keller who was quoted as writing this once. So what we once enjoyed and deeply loved, we can never lose. For all that we love deeply has become a part of us. I love that quotation because it reminds me that one of the unique and extraordinary things about relationships is simply this, that even though we're separated by distance or by time or by death, the one whom we love is always in our heart, aren't they? We still love them. Perhaps the love is expressed in different ways and sometimes maybe more difficult to share, but they're still very much in our hearts. That never ends. Nancy is predeceased by her parents, by her dear husband Cliff. He died in 1990. He and Nancy were married for 38 wonderful years. Also predeceased by her sister Barbara and her husband Bill. Survived by her 4 children, Christine, Becky, Connie, and Charles, and 10 grandchildren. Her brothers Donald, along with Betty Joan, and John, along with May. Sister-in-law Dana, and cousins Sandra, along with Guy. As well as many, many nieces, nephews, cousins, extended family members, and friends. And I think it'd be appropriate that we publicly express appreciation to all who've made a memorial donation in Nancy's honor to the Princess Margaret Head and Neck Research Fund, the Waterkeepers Canada, or the Canadian Wildlife Federation. Thank you to all who have commemorated Nancy in this way. It's absolutely impossible, and I think you'd agree, to share every experience, every story, every activity, every conversation that took place over 9 decades of life. There's no way we could begin to rehash and to communicate all of those things. And so instead, I just want to leave us with one word and a few thoughts surrounding that word as we honor and continue to remember Nancy. The word is legacy. It's obviously a word we would think about at this time. And by definition, a legacy is a gift. It's a gift of money or property that is transferred by a will or bequest from one party to another. That's the technical definition. Lawyers and accountants love that. I am neither, so I like the definition that says a legacy is anything that someone leaves once they have left us, anything that's handed down from the past. And I wrote down 3 things about leaving a legacy. One, I wrote down that leaving a legacy is always more about passing on values than passing on valuables. It's true, isn't it? Now, let me pause, because we all know and understand that valuables are important. I'm not saying that they're not, but I think what's more important is the values that someone carried with them, the values that they lived out in their life. We remember those more than the valuables. I do a lot of driving for my work, and I heard a song on the radio several years ago. It so impressed me that I went home and went online and found the lyrics to the song. Although it's written from a male perspective, and we'll forgive the writers of the song for that, but I think the sentiment of the song is so wonderful for us to remember at this time. It's entitled "A Good Man," and it's written and sung by a Canadian country group named Emerson Drive. The chorus reads as follows: I want to be the one, when all is said and done, who lived a good life, loved a good wife, and always helped someone in trouble. On the day they lay me down, I want everyone to gather round and say he was a father, a brother, a neighbor, a friend. He was a good man. And I think we get the gist of the song, don't we? Even though the pronouns are in the male. There's something to be said for a man, or obviously in this case a woman, who lived a good life. There's something to be said for a person who finds friendship and enjoys friendship and holds on to friendship over many, many years. There's something certainly to be said for a woman who understands that life can be tough, right? Understands that life can be difficult, but we should not give up. We should continue and press on. And that perhaps finding joy is just finding it in the everyday, simple, and ordinary experiences of life. And I get the sense that these and many, many more are the values that Nancy has left behind, not only for her family, but for her friends and those who knew her the most. I also wrote down this, that leaving a legacy is more about congruency than just conversation. That's just a fancy way of saying that what you say and how you live sort of need to match together in order for your legacy to be effective and believable. I find that memorial services like this, funeral services, and I've been to many, many of them, are a time of reflection, aren't they? This is a sacred space. We come in and we sit, and there are certainly there's volume of conversation at times, and then other times it's quiet. And during those quiet times, we sit and we reflect. We reflect on the brevity of life. We reflect on the frailty of our lives. We reflect on the good times, and we remember so many experiences like some of the ones that I mentioned this morning already. And we also, I think, we ask ourselves a question. We ask ourselves, am I living a life of congruency? Am I living a life where what I say and what I do sort of match together? It's almost like we hold a mirror to ourselves at a time like this and ask that question. I believe we are influenced most by people who say what they mean, who mean what they say, and who live with a sense of congruency between their words and their actions. Perhaps not perfectly, because obviously none of us is perfect, but not pretentiously either. You know what, I get the sense Nancy lived that way. She was who she was, right? She didn't have to wear a mask. It was, if you will, take me or leave me, right? And we honor and celebrate that wonderful virtue in her life, because leaving a legacy is more about congruency than just conversation. And the final thing I wrote down is that leaving a legacy is more about decades of life than just a few days. I've had the experience many times in my life at a social event or something work-related where I've met somebody new and I'm immediately impressed by them. Has that ever happened to you? I mean, this person looks good, they dress well, they present well, and immediately I make a judgment call. I shouldn't do it, but I do, and I just think, wow, here is a successful person. They've got their whole life together. There's no way they could understand the struggles I've had in my life. Just look at them. They just look like they've got their act together, and I judge them. And sometimes I misjudge them because I don't know. I don't know the backstory of their life. I don't know what they've had to face to get to this point in their life, the trials and the challenges that they've had to overcome. I have no idea. The reality is that the character of a person is never revealed just in a few moments or in good times. It takes struggles, it takes challenges for the real person to show through. I have a friend who teaches high school students. He wanted to teach this lesson to them, but in a very creative and memorable way. And so, as was his kind of custom, he went through the Tim Hortons drive-through before school, picked up his coffee, but he also purchased some jelly-filled donuts, and he brought them to the school, and in the classroom he set them on a table at the front. Several donuts, but they were different fillings in each of the donuts. And when the students arrived, he invited them to come to the front and try to guess what the fillings were in each of the donuts. Of course, the students jumped at that opportunity. They came forward, they looked at them, they poked them, they smelled them, they argued and debated. They thought they might know, but they couldn't know for sure. And so my friend, the teacher, invited them to return to their seats, and he said, you know, guys, there's one way we can know for sure what's inside one of these donuts. And with his bare hand, he picked one up and he squeezed it, he squished it, and blueberry filling squirted all over the place. The smell of blueberry wafted through the classroom. Obviously, it was a blueberry jelly-filled donut. And my friend concluded that little lesson time with these remarks. He said, you know, people are very similar to these donuts in that from the outside, we kind of all look a little bit the same. Yeah, we're different, of course, but we sort of look the same. But our real character, who we really are, is never fully revealed until life squeezes us with illness or pressure or some kind of stress. And that's when we really reveal who we are. And so I think leaving a legacy is about facing life with both realism and faith and moving forward. I think it's about being thankful for the gift of every breath we take, but understanding that many or some of those days that we live are going to be filled with challenges. I think it's about loving people and using things and not the other way around. It's about acknowledging our own shortcomings and yet having the grace and the maturity to be able to forgive the mistakes of others. And don't you see, that takes a long time. It takes a long time to be revealed. So leaving a legacy, I believe, is more about passing on values than just valuables. I think it's about congruency in life rather than just conversation. It's about decades of life, not just a few days. And today we gathered together to say goodbye to Nancy. We remember her life. We feel the universal pain that every human being feels whenever they say goodbye to someone they love. Someone once reminded me the depth of the pain that you feel in your heart when you say goodbye is always the depth of that pain is always in proportion to the depth of the love you shared with that person. When I heard that, I thought, man, that's brilliant, because it doesn't take the pain away, but it reminds us of why it's there. And so as we say goodbye, we're thankful for Nancy's laughter. We're thankful for her love for nature and for her family, obviously. And we're thankful today for the legacy she's left behind. She obviously touched the lives of her family and friends, and her memory will live on in the hearts and the lives of those who loved her the most. A wife, a mother, a grandma too. This is the legacy we have from you. You taught us to love and how to fight. You gave us strength. You gave us might. A stronger person would be hard to find, and in your heart, you were always kind. You fought for us in one way or another, not just as a wife and not just as a mother. For all of us, you gave your best, and now the time has come for you to rest. So go in peace. You've earned your sleep. Your love in our hearts we will eternally keep. Again, let me just say thank you for being here collectively to honor and to celebrate Nancy's life. Obviously, at a time like this, it's difficult to know exactly what to say to each other. Let me just assure everyone in this room, those that are watching and will be watching, that your very presence and involvement in the lives of those who are grieving speaks volumes of your love and concern for them, and I know that that will continue. We're not going to be going to a cemetery today for a final committal, and so I think it'd be appropriate for us just to conclude the service this morning with a very brief prayer of benediction, some words of committal, and then we'll conclude with the Lord's Prayer. And so, let us pray. Our God, may your presence give us comfort today and in the days to come. May your peace rest on us, and may your blessings rest on all of Nancy's family members and her friends. We thank you for the life of this woman. In a world that is too often characterized by violence and greed and hatred and selfishness, we thank you for a woman who deeply loved her family, loved other people, and did what she could to make this world a better place for herself and others. In faith and hope that you always do what is good, we now release Nancy from our care into yours, earth to earth, ashes to ashes, and dust to dust. May she forever rest in peace. And we pray in the name of the one who taught us to pray. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. I just express to one and all my deep condolences and sympathies. I know that your encouragement and support of each other will continue in the weeks and months to come. And let me just say it was an honor really to serve your family today and to honor Nancy's life with you together.